Right. Give it a go. Welcome to episode 35 of Concede, a podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. My name is Kenny, and all the way from Thunder Bluff, Louisiana, we have Jace, a.k.a. Cinder. Cinder, what have you been up to?
I have been basking in the glow of Deathwing is what I have been doing, my friend. That Dragon Priest deck has been treating me so well.
Oh, yeah, I want to ask about that in a little bit. And then also, all the way from Ender City, Georgia, we have Andres. Andres, what's up? What's new?
What's up, Kenny? I must say I have also been basking in the glory of Deathwing. I added it on my Tempo Warrior deck instead of Varian, just because I was seeing so much of that mid-range Shaman deck that floods the board, and they never see it coming.
All right. And we'll get to talking about that in a little bit. And Cora, all the way from Orgrimmar, Illinois, we have Cora. The Cora. Welcome back.
Thanks, Kenny. Yeah, it's been a good week. Hit Legend today for the 22nd time, so no Deathwing though.
Oh, that's old news for you.
I saw you in the top legendaries there.
Yeah, I'm going for top 100. We'll see.
All right, so what do we want to talk about first? Our week, or do we want to talk about our Tavern Brawl this week? That's a good question. I want to talk about Tavern Brawl first, just only because
I vote for that too.
We normally don't talk about Tavern Brawl, but this one was a blast. This is the one that I've played more than just one game.
Yep.
But I'm very interested to see what everyone was not only playing but coming across that just stomped them. I have a feeling that most of us have come across several common strong decks, or I call them decks, but really 2-card deck.
Yeah.
Deck.
All right, Andres, you want to tell us, tell everyone who's listening if they've been living under a rock, what the Tavern Brawl was?
Yeah, this probably has been like the most popular Tavern Brawl so far. Everyone lost their minds about this, and it's really cool because I think it summarizes the deck building aspect of the game really well, because you're just worrying about certain matchups, right? Like depending on the 2 cards that you choose, you might instantly lose or instantly win against the other deck. There's very little games where like there's gonna be a big back and forth. So it's cool just getting to experiment just like that deck building aspect. I think a lot of people took it really well and really like exploded with the whole thing. Some of the popular decks that I saw and I think everyone was annoyed with was like the Mech Warper, Metal Tooth Leaper little combo thing.
Mm-hmm.
Also the Innervate, Ishar's Unbound on like turn 2 and then just flood the board with a bunch of Ishars and 10/10s and just like win like that. That was very fun. And one of the cool ones that I personally did that I thought it was really cool and it worked out a couple of times really well for me was Preparation plus Burgle. Because you can like immediately do the prep and burgle on turn 1, and you can like build a deck with your opponent's class cards like that.
Sounds fun.
And then you can also prep whatever spells that you get from it. So that ended up working pretty well a couple of times, and I liked it. I did Innervate plus Cut Like Oracle, although I realized people were doing Cut Like Oracle plus what's the name of that card? Not Mulch, but Naturalize, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the ultimate mill deck.
Yeah, I tried that one out.
What did you guys try?
That's the first one I did was the Innervate, Cold Light. Not Innervate. You got me doing it. Naturalize was Cold Light because it was, I play a minion, you draw 2 cards. I remove your minion, you draw 2 more cards. And then I play my minion, and you draw 2 cards. And the game's like really fast.
Miller's wet dream right there.
I had a bad example, or a bad game, first 3 games playing that. I tried it, and it didn't work out too well for me at first. I had one that was like, the 2 Murloc cards, the one that gives 1/1 to all Murloc cards, and then the charge one, the bluegill.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
I was literally just filling their hand, and they just dump it all, and fill their hand and dump it all. So that didn't work out too well for me. But so some of the decks that I play, or the cards that I played, was I played a lot of priest actually. The 2 mana 5 damage to the face and the 2 mana or the 1 mana heal for 5 to yourself. So it was cool because I could survive longer if I didn't get my burn, and yeah, so that worked out pretty well. And then I also had fun playing obviously the hunter mech. Yeah, that was fun.
I can't remember who it was that I saw that just wanted to be a troll and went priest with power word death and power word the other one, the one that destroys
Horror.
3 minions or 3 attack or lower or 5 attack or more. Yeah,
Okay.
and he got a match against the guy that put Yeti in his deck.
Oh no.
Oh.
The ultimate punish.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
man.
hilarious.
No, I had a lot of fun playing Ice Block plus Fireball. It was a lot
nice.
of
It's
fun.
just rude.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
That is
I
so
didn't-
It was
rude.
really rude. It was awesome. You can't lose.
No, you
like,
can't.
Literally, you can't die.
No.
It was awesome. It was so fun.
All right, so what have you been up to? We just heard Cora actually made Legend. What have you guys been up to as far as what have you been playing? I haven't had much time to play, but let's hear a little bit from you, Cinder, because I know you were talking a little bit in the intro about Deathwing.
Oh yeah, so I mentioned this last week, and I made some refinements to it. But this Dragon Priest that just is kind of a hybrid between that and the Death Rattle Priest that top ends with N'Zoth. I have seen the wildest game states ever, just because of the amount of copying and duplicating that all the cards in that deck do. And you drop N'Zoth, and you just have these. You'll get like 2 Sylvanas, 2 Tyrion. Even though I don't even play with Tyrion, I stole yours, and I played it twice. Or like I even had one game that was literally 6 Sylvanas. It was N'Zoth and 6 copies of her.
God.
It just creates these unbeatable end games after having grinded the opponent down with like those big body dragons. And there's just like nothing they can do about it. And it's just so much fun just watching all the crazy stuff that the deck does with all the different card copies.
I just remembered I did have a Deathwing moment this week. It wasn't actually okay. So I wasn't actually playing Deathwing. I was playing Control Warrior with Elise Starseeker, and I played Golden Monkey. My opponent had also played the Monkey, and I got Shifter Xeris from the Golden Monkey. And it turned into Deathwing Dragon Lord and pulled out Malagos and Alexstrasza from my hand. So it wasn't
Man.
actually like Deathwing, but it was so funny. It was so funny. He just conceded. At that point.
Deathwing is fun because people just sometimes don't see it coming. I was against this shaman that he was so confident that he had won against me because he ended up destroying all my board, hexing my Grom on my Temple Warrior deck, and after that he was like, oh, there's no way that this guy wins. So he plays his entire hand into the board, and I just Deathwing and hit him in the face 3 times with Deathwing for the win. That was pretty fun. I was just praying that he didn't get Taunt Totem. I was like, please don't Taunt Totem.
Taunt Totem. Heal 12 damage. 2 mana.
Yeah.
So I've been just kind of sticking around rank 8 with some shaman play and even some warlock play, playing my new warlock, golden warlock. But yeah, just kind of sitting around there, not doing much, but kind of uneventful. All right, so we got a lot to go to during the show this week, so let's go ahead and jump right into the news. All right, so first things up, Cloud9 actually releases Myson and Cyan's Asia Pacific Winter Champion oh my gosh.
Dahyoni.
Dahyoni.
No, you got it.
All right. I figured I had to try it at least. Give it a try. Good old hard try. So Cinder, obviously you probably know a lot more about this, and even Cora can add some pepper in there.
Yeah, Cora might even know a little bit more about it than I do, but Myson has just been plagued with controversy over his Twitch channel. He's been banned and unbanned several times over accusations of using bots to modify his viewership and kind of cheat the advertising system. And I think Cloud9 just decided that it was best to stay away from that. And they went ahead and signed, a real rising star on Twitch, Dahyoni. he was already very popular in Korea, but his breakout performance at the APAC Winter Championship brought him to a global stage, and his Twitch channel has taken off, and he's been doing wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, Myson was sort of more of a liability than he was worth as a streamer. And Dione, really just a rising star. So, yeah.
Plus, I can't remember the last time Myson even made it to the top in an open tournament or an invite tournament.
He hasn't.
Exactly.
In a very long time.
Yeah, I think this is a long time coming kind of thing. I'm surprised it took this long.
That he was part of
I didn't even know he was still part of Cloud9.
Well, the Cloud9 is a strange team comparative to others because they kind of let all of their players do their own thing. I mean, if you think about Cloud9, it's Firebat, Kalento, Dahyoni now, a few other popular names, but you never think of those people as a team. But that's just because they kind of allow those guys to operate individually and do their own thing.
Yeah, which for an e-sport like Hearthstone, it makes sense since it's just an individual kind of game style. And then I'm sure that is more of a conversational kind of thing they got going on, maybe practice partner that they get going on in the background. I think probably like Archon is the only team in Hearthstone that really looks like a team, and like they really like try to showcase that to the rest of the world.
Right?
I agree.
I don't have much comments, so yes, agreed. All right, so next thing up here is Blizzard actually made all HCT Spring competitor decks public knowledge. This has actually been a little bit of a talk around Hearthstone community only because, well, number one, they get to see what everything is, who's playing what, and a couple actually Magic players considered it a little bit odd that this is public knowledge and that part of the game is actually trying to figure out what they're playing against, and for them to know. I think I got into a little bit of a conversation with Cinder over it during the week, but it has a little bit to do with kind of self moderating cheating in a way, because there's nothing really in the game yet as far as Blizzard making sure that the decks are actually solidified and they can't change them. So I think it's more focused on that, but it's interesting that Blizzard actually made it all the decks public knowledge. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think you're right about that. I think it's their attempt to try to minimize some of the cheating that has been going on, because if at least you know the deck list that your opponent is bringing to the table, if they come up with like a weird card or change the stuff around, you can at least have a way to corroborate that.
And it's because the prelims are off-site, there's no way for Blizz to have independent verification for each player. So really the best solution was to just make all the decks public knowledge ahead of time. And some people have kind of speculated that that's given some of the pro players an advantage, but I don't agree with that. I think if everyone has equal access to the information, then no one has an advantage. I think
everyone can see the deck list, and they're released after they have been submitted. So it's not like anyone has knowledge of this information while they're crafting a deck list, right? So you still have to do all your research and your strategy planning beforehand. And I think it's also good for the viewers, right? The viewers that want to see what is being played in the tournament, just having access to all the deck lists and being able to see how the tournament meta is looking is very good, especially for the journalist side. Like people trying to create like the meta snapshots and like all these articles around Hearthstone. It's super good for them.
I was even going to say, Cora, does that change anything as far as casting goes? Does that make it easier for you?
It's great for the casters. So the thing is, for championships last season, we had the deck lists. We had the choice of actually looking at them, and we chose not to because we didn't want to be in a position where we gave something away to an opponent that didn't know what was in that person's list. Like if we accidentally let something slip, then that looks really bad for us, and we essentially jeopardize a player's chances of winning the game by concealing information. So for us, it's really nice. Because then we're not liable. We can't possibly reveal any information. If we get to do research on the decks and become better experts on the decks. We don't have to constantly guess about what.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. especially from your viewpoint, being so worried about having other players find out on this stuff. And honestly, that sort of thing only lasts, usually in this type of tournaments, only lasts for the first round. Like that element of surprise when somebody brings like a very weird deck list or offbeat kind of thing. They might catch the first person by surprise, but then afterwards it becomes kind of like public knowledge, especially to the people that are paying attention. They can go back and rewatch the VODs of their opponents, which they do most of the time in the pro scene. So honestly, it's kind of like taking that part out of the equation and being like, here you go. Nobody has to worry about this. I think it brings more benefit than any bad.
Agreed.
Right. Yeah,
Cool.
I think we got that finished. I apologize for some of the sound quality and issues here. Hopefully Skype will work it out. All right, and the last thing, just kind of a minor detail, but something that maybe some of our listeners may be interested in is the Innkeeper Alpha actually rolled out for Hearthbone. So they're kind of in an alpha phase where you can automatically roll your decks into their website, which actually seems kind of cool. So if you're up to working with a bunch of bugs and trying out things and reporting to them, go ahead and take a look at that on their website. You'll find it at the top of their page on the far right. It says Innkeeper. So yeah, that pretty much does it for news. And let's go with Cinder over here. And I always feel like a newscaster reaching over to the weather. So Cinder,
and here's Cinder with the weather. All right.
What's new with the weather?
Well, I don't know about the weather, but I can tell you what's up with the tournaments.
All right.
So this past weekend we had the big spotlight, I think, was on the Hearthstone Championship Tour Euro Spring preliminaries. So we're back in action with the main stage, as it were, at Blizzard. Now the preliminaries were off-site, as we were just talking about. But we got to see all these great players from around Europe. I believe it was about 156 players entered the bracket. It's a double elimination bracket, best of 5 conquests. And at the end of it, we have 8 qualifiers, 4 from the upper bracket, 4 from the lower bracket. Now, this is interesting. The winners bracket were all known tournament players, pro players or just very prominent tournament ladder players. Top of the list is Ties. I think everybody should know who Ties is. Ties is a Dutch player who is got one of the best win rates in tournament play in the history of Hearthstone. He's an extremely good player, very talented, very entertaining if you ever want to check out his stream. Next on the list is Crane from Complexity Gaming. Crane had a very strong finish throughout the tournament. In the final rounds, he ended up beating Tars from Melty 3-0, and then Faramir, who we talked about last week, beat him 3-1. So he had a very good win rate. And I think a lot of the pros and the casters were expecting Crane to break through sooner or later, and here he comes. Next on the top list is Loyan, another member of Team Complexity, and he also had a very strong win rate. He practically cruised through his matches, ended up qualifying along with his teammate. And then the last one, this is the one I'm really interested in, AK Wonder. He's from SK Gaming along with Powder and a couple of the other very strong players from Europe. He's been a regular in the tournament scene for a long time. Always been a very strong player, very creative player, and a very excitable player. When he won his qualifying match, I thought he was going to shake himself to death. He was so excited. But he's a lot of fun to watch. I think he's one of those players that has been sorely undersold, with the tournament scene we had last year. So I'm really glad to see him coming through. Good to see these 4 pro players at the top of the bracket coming through.
Perfect.
Usually Cora has something to add.
No, I watched most of the tournament over the 2 days. It was a fantastic tournament. Tice is, from what I've heard at least, and from what I can gather from his stream, seems like just one of the nicest, most genuine people. He's always so happy. He's really a great player. So, and then Crane.
Not to mention one of the more consistent ones too.
Yes. And maybe happiness and success at Hearthstone go hand in hand. All the salty players should take a page out of Tice's book. Crane, yeah, absolutely someone that has always been at the top, but we've kind of been waiting to see break out, and this could definitely be it. Loyan, a little bit lesser known, but actually very came in prominent with his mid-range shaman this past season, which we're actually going to be talking about later on. And then AKA Wonder, just so, again, like Tice, so genuinely excited to be succeeding and to be playing in the tournament, just so happy to be there. It's really, really refreshing to see.
Yeah, it's wonderful to watch people like him just being excited about the game and just enjoying themselves as they're playing it, because honestly, that's what the game is for, right?
Yeah, proof positive that if you're enjoying yourself, your rates of success should go up. Now the losers bracket, or I guess we should say the under bracket, these are the people who fell out in the main bracket, and then they had this consolation bracket on the bottom, and it's a double elimination. I think everybody knows how that works. Now, most of these names, however, unlike the top four, are kind of unknown outside of ladder play. Like, if you had been watching tournaments and maybe not be reading the ladder report, you may not have seen these players, but these are players who are getting regular high ladder finishes and gaining HCT points off of that. Top is the first one is George C. He's one of the top legend players from Britain. 15 years old, another one of these very young third wave kids. Very, very smart. If you ever get a chance to listen to him talk about his picks and talk about his tournament strategy, his mind is very well wrapped around the game. He's really fascinating to listen to. Einar is next on the list. He knocked out Osaka from the winners bracket, so a little bit of cred for knocking down the former champion. And then next on the list is Turna, an Italian player who knocked Osaka out of the losers bracket. So both of these guys who kind of used Osaka as a stepping stone managed to qualify. So that says something about their strength, even though they may be unknown. And this last one's another one I want to talk about a little bit too. Casey. He's a German player, and most people probably don't know his name, but pros do. Casey is actually a practice partner of a lot of pros and regular tournament players, so they have recognized his ability for a long time, and this is the first time that he's really come up in a high-profile tournament and shown his skill, and it was definitely on display. He had a great run.
That's cool. Yeah, I've never heard of him before, and that's a neat little backstory, too.
Yep, I think we lost Andres. Just see his card back. Anyway.
That's a nice card back. No, George, I was really impressed by his play. Obviously, 15 years old, it's going to be impressive that you can play a game at that level, but he seemed very put together, very calm, very collected. Didn't see Einar's match, I don't believe. I did see Turna beat Osaka in the lower bracket finals. And that was a really close match. Osaka played very well, but Turna, his N'Zoth Paladin actually was just a little bit too strong for Osaka. The Freeze Mage couldn't take that out. And then Casey, I think everybody was really impressed with the speed that he played at.
Yeah.
Because most of the players were taking, the full 90 seconds pretty much every turn to think about their plays. They don't want to make any mistakes. And Casey had it down in 20 seconds. Like, he's like, all right, I know what I'm doing. It's not going to change. I've played this deck so much that, here we go. We're done. Let's move on. And he won 3-0. So, yeah, that was a refreshing pace. Everybody was like, I like this guy. He knows what he's doing.
Very, very well-practiced player. Mm-hmm. So, on to the statistics that I know everybody loves and knows like I do. So, our popular decks for the week, Cora has head in hand. I don't know if she's embarrassed of me or not.
No, not at all. I'm
so,
just really, really exhausted.
So our deck winners and losers. The most popular deck by far, or the most popular class was Warrior. Warrior was taken in 81% of player lineups. Now, this was mostly the mid-range Warrior that has evolved in the last week or so. Everybody's calling it Tempo Warrior, but it's not a tempo deck. This is a mid-range deck. It's a play on curve,
Patron minus
I do believe it's a
Patron.
tempo deck, though. It's a mid-range deck. You're right, in the sense that you try to curve out most of the time, but all of your cards have an immediate effect on the board, like the Arathi Weaponsmith giving you a weapon, Malkarok giving you a weapon. You have Blood-2 Hiker that can trade and fill up your board. So in that sense, the way you're using your cards almost always, or the way you should be using it, is almost always in this kind of like double edge use, if you want to call it that, where you're like removing and controlling the board while developing yours. So in that sense, it's kind of like the Tempo Mage, where you use Flame Waker to remove and develop the board in kind of sense.
Yeah. Shaman was also taken in 81% of lineups, and most of those deck archetypes were the aggro variant, even though there is consensus amongst the top players that really it's the mid-range Totem Shaman that is the stronger variant. So it's interesting to see that most people immediately went to aggro, but it really probably wasn't the best pick. And then Warlock was taken in 70% of lineups, mostly Reno variants. And the great thing about Reno decks is that they all have these different variants. Everybody has a different tech choice, a different finishing style to it. It's a really cool deck to watch. I mean, the games are a little bit slow, but it's really great to see creativity and innovation in the in the deck building. The least popular. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I jump on that, that's classes. The most popular single deck archetype was Miracle Rogue. Now, this was taken more than mid-range Temple Warrior, more than aggro Shaman, taken 63 times out of all the competitors. So everyone seems to be gravitating toward the Miracle Rogue, and I think it has a lot to do with the burst potential of that deck. I think people are trying to close games without fighting for the board too much, and we'll definitely be talking about that in the Dexplanation segment. And the least popular class, once again, my poor beleaguered Hunter, taken very, very, very few times throughout the entire tournament. Andres, you're muted.
I have seen a couple more Hunters popping up, though, which is a good sign. I feel people are finally going back and experimenting with the class. Because Hunter lost a lot of things that were making them really good. And I feel like some people just haven't taken the time to really develop like a new deck that really can push through.
Yeah. Now, despite the popularity of those three classes, the best winning class of the weekend was Druid, 54%, which is fairly consistent. And there wasn't a huge consensus on which kind of Druid was the prominent deck over the weekend. We had some Cthulhu, we had some Ramp, and we had some Beasts. All different variations on this new post-nerf Druid, and seemingly doing better than the rest of the field. I can't really attribute it to one thing, since all these archetypes are very different. But Druid definitely seems to be catching the attention of pros and tournament players. Shaman was right behind it with 53% win rate, and Warrior of all kinds at 51%. Everything else actually fell below the median, and we're more losing than winning, believe it or not.
It's very interesting to kind of break up the win rates, the best win rates, with the most popular, and just see how the percentages compare. That's what I pick out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to an extent. The more of one deck that you're going to see, the more it's going to have the potential to lose. So I'm actually kind of surprised that Hunter is the least popular and the worst win rate.
Man, one day we will bring it back.
So, I mean, like, if one person brought Hunter and just won all of their games with Hunter would have a 100% win rate. So
right?
Hunter had to be brought very few times and had to do very badly.
Well, it's interesting. When I looked deeper into the data on Hunter, it actually had very polarizing matchups. It did extremely well against Priest and a couple of the other very slow classes, but then it did very, very poorly against others. So I think, when we look at decks for tournaments, you want consistency over the potential of a big win. And, a 55% across the entire board is way more preferable to 75% on the top end and 25% on the bottom.
Yeah, I think it actually makes sense, the results of the matchups, actually, because when you're going against lower decks, you have like your high mains, and then you have Call of the Wild, double Call of the Wild sometimes if you draw into both of them, which is so good for the late game. But when you're running into this faster like decks like Aggro Shaman or even the Sue deck, you no longer have, at least for the mid-range Hunter style, you no longer have like mad scientists that can pull up that explosive trap out of your deck, or you no longer have Sludge Belcher to like really like stop that aggression for you. So you're really losing out a lot on Hunter when you're going against the more fast, aggressive style decks right now, I feel.
Okay. And that pretty much wraps up that, right, Cinder? You want to go into the Starladder?
Yeah, so Star Series qualifiers finished up this afternoon, actually. I was watching that as I was prepping the show. Just to quickly touch on it, since it's invitational, so these are more for entertainment than anything else, but there's 4 qualifiers who will move on into a bracket this weekend. It's Kranich, the very, very well-known and very strong Korean player. Dr. Hippie, our mysterious challenger, second-place winner from the European Winter Championships. Really glad to see him in tournament play again. Hoi from Navi. If you've watched tournament play in the last year or so, you've seen Hoi. He's very, very good, and he's on Team Navi, which is one of the strongest teams in Hearthstone, no doubt. And his teammate Zixo from Navi also. And Zixo's match was really impressive. He had to pass up Amnesiac to get into the qualifier, and Amnesiac had got up on him 3-0 because this was a best of 7. And Zixo reverse swept Amnesiac, got him 4 games in a row against Amnesiac's Burst Priest. Burst Priest was giving everybody a hard time. I think it was kind of a snap choice for maybe trying to play the Burst game along with the OTK Warrior, but it's neither him nor Firebat did very well with it. And as a matter of fact, both of them were taking these really combo-heavy lineups of like Miracle Rogue, the Ragin worgen OTK Warrior, and the 2 variations on the Burst Priest, which one runs Velen and one runs Malygos, where they try to get 2 Mind Blasts and a Flash Heal off to do 30 damage in one spot. And I think that has to do with the fact that the Priest is relying on a legendary, whereas the Raging Worgen is not. They're relying on duplicates of all their combo pieces. But interesting stuff coming out of the tournament scene, especially in this particular series.
Did you get a chance to see this at all, Cora?
I did. I saw a little bit last week. I actually saw Amnesiac go 4-0 against his opponent. I don't remember who his opponent was, though. And then I saw a little bit of Zixo versus Amnesiac today, but I came in like game 6, so I didn't get to see too much of it. But yeah, the combo lineups were very, very interesting because it seemed like the Burst Priest was working last week and then just not so much today.
I haven't really seen it very much, so it seems very interesting that a lot of them are playing more combo. But I think it's cool that they're playing. I mean, it's invitational, so they probably know more and expect more from their opponents. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it has to do like with the meta has slowed down significantly post Whispers. A lot of decks are running much longer games, trying to get to turn 10 and after, trying to get to these old god win conditions, and there's even still Murloc Paladin lurking around out there. So I think the idea was to just kind of ignore the board and just go straight for damage. Especially, getting around things like Reno and Forbidden Healing and all these huge comeback mechanics.
I was just gonna say that, yeah.
Yeah, just skip that whole mess and just do 30 to the face and win.
Just because Reno Warlock and then the Soft Paladin are so popular and so strong right now, and those decks we have such a hard time killing them with like board presence decks. You really need like this big burst that can only be achieved with this sort of combo deck where you just kind of like bid your time, wait for the right turn, and just kill them off.
Exactly.
Have you guys seen any of these on Ladder, by the way?
Not very much.
The OTK, no, the OTK style decks, I haven't seen them. I would say that for you to start seeing them, you have to get a little higher because most of them are not easy to play.
Yeah, I ran across an OTK Warrior, or a couple, I should say. So that was very surprising on Ladder.
Did you see any in Legend rank, Cora?
I've seen a little bit of the Burst Priest. I haven't seen OTK Warrior. There's a lot of Pirate Warrior running around. But yeah, I got super surprised by Velen's OTK Priest, and I lost. It was exciting.
Pretty hardcore to a perfect curved warrior. I added him afterwards like that. It was amazing. he had that weapon that was the one. It was the 1 mana
Cursed
minion.
Blade?
Nizos first mate.
Nizos,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So he did that, and then on turn 2 he did 2 upgrades.
Ew.
Oh.
That deck's disgusting.
And then the
You-
third
oh
one
my
he
God.
played like some pirate that buffed his weapon. I was like, oh my gosh.
Green
I
skin?
can't-
The Bloodsail cultist or whatever.
Yeah,
the blue four.
Oh, yeah.
he said it was like perfect draw, so it was I
Crazy.
was dead in turn 5 or 6. It was funny. Sorry to derail us, but was there anything upcoming you wanted to talk about, Senator?
Well, this weekend, if you're listening to the same week we're recording, HCT North America, I guess I should say the Americas spring prelims are coming up, so that'll be really exciting. The Star Series finals with those 4 finalists we just talked about, that'll be this weekend, and the China versus EU Championship gets started this week. So be watching some of that really great mixed meta action going on. It'll be really fun.
Cool. All right, so before we go into our Dexplanation segment, I just want to mention our iTunes review. We do appreciate it. This is from Reno Fox. Oh, let me pull up Reno. Is from the USA. And he said, out of the few Hearthstone podcasts out there, this one is my favorite. These guys cover the news, strategy, and the weather, and keep things fun all at once. If you're a beginner or a legend player, there's something here for you, and you'll enjoy the fix. Thank you so much for your review. We do appreciate it. And I hope that gives some of you the encouragement to write one as yourself as well. We love hearing your feedback. It's pretty cool.
It's a very
Nothing from-
heartwarming little review.
Yeah.
I really like
very nice.
that he says that, because I think we do make an effort to at least give a little something to everyone that listens to the podcast, whether you're a pro season player or you're really just starting out the game.
Yeah, and I really appreciate how genuine these have been. Like, it's not just, hey, 5 stars, great podcast. Like, they actually take the time to say something
Yeah.
really complimentary
Yeah.
about what we're doing. I really appreciate it, guys.
It's super awesome for us to read them, and it helps the podcast a lot, especially put us on the map on the iTunes store and stuff. So keep them coming.
Above
Thank you
and
so
beyond.
much, Reno.
All right, great. Let's go ahead and go straight into our Dexplanation. All right, so also as part of our Dexplanation, we do open up our emails too. So you can also write into the show by sending us an email at coinconcede@gmail.com. And we would love to be able to talk about some of our emails. This week, we did want to talk about a couple decks. We'll start with the Raging Worgen OTK deck, and later we'll cover the Totem Midrange Shaman. Cora, you want to start with the Raging Worgen deck? I know you play Warrior. I don't know how much you've played of this, though.
I play a lot of Warrior. I have not played a lot of this, but I've seen quite a bit. So essentially, this is an OTK deck, very similar to the Burst Priest. And it's actually been around for a really long time. So none of these cards are new. So it depends on using Raging Worgen, Inner Rage, Charge, and Faceless Manipulator to deal a maximum of 32 damage in one turn. But you need Emperor Thaurissan to give reductions on at least one of those cards because they cost 11 mana. So essentially, you can draw a bunch of cards very early on, Acolyte of Pain, things like that, and then get all of those cards in your hand, play Emperor Thaurissan, very similar to Freeze Mage. Reduce the cards, and then kill your opponent in one big. It's a really great patient deck, but it's really, really exciting. Horrible to play against because you never know when you're dead. It's usually after Emperor Thaurissan, right after, but sometimes it's not. But it's really, really
Cool. You want to add anything to that, Andres?
What I want to add to this is that I think it's really interesting how all of these different warrior decks keep sparking up with the Patron shell, because this is basically what it is the Patron Warrior shell with inner rages, acolytes of pain, and enabler effects like whirlwinds or blood to wicker. This one uses inner rage, that sort of thing, to trigger this massive amount of draw. And with this massive amount of draw, you can really like get creative on like, all right, so what can my win condition be? Patrons are awesome against like board-centric styles of decks. So you're using Druid, Zeus, that's super awesome. This one, on the other hand, is super, super awesome if you're seeing a lot of heavy control or decks that are trying to get a little greedy with their stuff, because you can draw through your deck really, really fast and just assemble your win condition no problem. It's so consistent assembling the win condition too. Same with like the Tempo Warrior. You put so much pressure on the board and then just refill your hand with all your damaged creatures. It's a really strong deck for sure. I think the shell of the deck, the Patron Warrior shell, is really strong, and this is just one of the examples decked into that like more late game kind of like dominant deck.
Okay. Yeah, Cinder, you want to add anything to this?
Well, we know how it works. We should also want to know how to maybe how to counter this. Now it's minion attack. It's minion combat. They're hitting the board and they're going straight to your face. So we got to think about some of the ways we can stop that from happening. So the first and easiest way, play some taunts. If you see a warrior deck and he's just sitting there playing a bunch of card draw, playing a bunch of card draw, playing a bunch of card draw, and he doesn't really play much, and maybe you even get lucky enough to see one of the Raging Worgens hit the board trying to create some board presence, well, you know what you're up against. So if you have some taunts built into your deck, maybe you have like a Dragon Priest deck like I do, or maybe you're running that big Slugothless Slitherer that came out in the set, which would be a great counter to these guys. Taunts would be a one way to stop it. It won't be a cure-all, but it'll at least give you some time. Then if there are ways you can have more than 32 health, because 32 is the magic number here. So if you're playing warrior, get your armor up really high, or if you're playing mage with an ice barrier, you'll get it up, +8 for each ice barrier, or maybe you drop the ice block right before they drop the combo to keep you alive. And then there's some other creative ways that you can do it. If you're playing hunter, you can use freezing traps to kick that worgen right back into his hand and cancel all of that fancy shenanigans that he did to make that charging creature. Or maybe you just play it faster than the combo, because the combo is usually going to hit around turn 9 or 10. So if you're playing something super aggressive, like maybe a really aggressive zoo or a hunter or a shaman, then you might just beat them before they get to the combo. So if you see it, don't be too deflated. There's a number of ways to beat this deck. So if you see it start getting really popular and you're part of the meta, try out some of these little solutions. They might improve your win rate a little bit.
Yeah, I think you hit it right in the nail. The head ran the head. The nail ran the head. Jesus, I can't say that.
You pulled a Kenny. You can't speak. All right. So I think we pretty much got that one covered. How about the Totem mid-range shaman? We'll go again. We'll start with Cora again.
All right, so I've actually played a reasonable amount of this this season. Ended up going from rank 5 to rank 2 with it. So really, really viable deck. Very good at the higher ranks, but also really good at some of those lower ranks, because it's just a solid mid-range deck with a really strong, balanced curve. It takes a lot from the aggro shaman in the early game with the Tunnel Trog, the Totem Golem, just those really strong, annoying early minions that can deal damage and control the board really well. It also has the ability to quickly flood the board with totems. So lots of tools to answer, a wide variety of situations. It can easily adapt between an aggressive or a control playstyle. So there's a couple different actually win conditions for this deck. A lot of it is board control based. So you are going to be working with your totem minions. You're going to be working with the Thunderbluff Valiant to buff those totem minions, and then Bloodlust is a really popular way to finish off your opponent once you build up that big board. Also, Alakir has actually come back into the meta quite a bit, and Doomhammer Rockbiter is always going to be a really strong way to get that quick burst damage. Weaknesses, though, it is really, really weak to AoE because it is so centric.
All right.
For you.
We may, you kind of cut out a little bit there, so let's have someone else cover maybe some of the weaknesses.
Oh, shoot.
No, just the weaknesses part.
Oh, okay. Well, then have fun. Go ahead. Let's hear. Let's see if I was right.
All right, who's now up to the challenge?
You want to go for it, Cinder? Okay, I can do it.
Go for it.
This deck does rely a lot on the board. Because you're trying to get most of your damage from your minions. You're trying to win the board and then slowly grind out your opponent and just get a little bit of burst with your Bloodlust and stuff. The deck is very vulnerable to large AoE wipes, so things like Flame Strike, Equality Consecrator, Equality Pyromancer, Circle of Healing plus Akanai Shadow Priest, like that sort of thing is very, very punishing to this deck. And even though the deck can really pace itself, and that's the way you should do it when you're playing against these decks, you should really watch out to not get your board completely wiped and lose the tempo, because if you cannot regain the board back and you haven't dealt enough damage, you might be in a little trouble there. Another thing that this deck might struggle a little bit with is decks that might be a little better at gaining the board. For example, Zoo, which is an awesome deck at flooding the board as well as doing really favorable trades. If you cannot get a foothold on the board quick against Zoo, you might not be able to get it back, even though you do run things like Lightning Storm to help you get it back. The stickiness of some of those minions can make it very difficult. And they also run things like Sea Giant, which plays off of your own win condition, which is also flooding the board.
Yeah, I feel like, I've been playing something very similar to this with a lot of this very similar cards. I felt like sometimes I was a little too slow for some of the decks that would beat me, like Aggro Shaman. Even though that we have a lot of the beginning plays, they can really outburst you pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And that was the the deck I was playing when I lost to that Pirate Warrior with the perfect curve. So it was super slow, and he just got me super quick. So. But
having said that, though, this deck to me seems like one of the most well-rounded decks out there right now, just because you have such a strong curve on every turn. Also, you have the ability to flood the board with things like Tusker Totemic or your own hero power. And then because of your hero power and like the way some of your cards play out, you can switch from a very aggressive playstyle to a more attrition-based playstyle, so you can really grind out decks like Control Warrior that have more like single target removal. You can run them dry of all of the removal just by pacing yourself, and then eventually taking over in a more like slow fashion. And not only that, but you carry like such a wide variety of tools. You have Hex, you have Lightning Storm. Some people run a single copy of Earthshock Totem. So you pretty much have like the whole shebang, right? You can answer anything that comes at you, and having things like double Manatite Totem really keep the fuel coming. And Manatite Totem in this deck actually becomes quite good, not only because it synergizes with all of your totem synergy, so you can play your what's the name of the 5/5 taunt that reduces its mana cost?
Think from below.
Think from below, yeah. Synergizes with that, and then people play sometimes a single, sometimes a double copy of the new 1-cost card that buffs your
Primal Fusion.
Primal Fusion. That card was a sleeper too, I feel. It's so strong in this deck. Yeah, and buffing a Manatite Totem with one of these, or even your Flame Tongue Totem with that card, just puts so much pressure.
Yeah, I played around with this deck a little bit and was quickly surprised at how good Primal Fusion was, because I just had 2 hero power totems on the board, and I hit him with Primal Fusion, and I just ran amok on this guy's board. It was really something.
It can be a huge tempo card, because if you have enough on the board, just like putting one of your strong minions out of range, or like even that Manatite Totem, right? Putting it out of range is so bad for your opponent.
This actually kind of reminds me a little bit of Warrior too. Like back in the day when we had the Warriors, the Control Warrior, you couldn't really tell if he was Control or not at first because of what he was playing. Similar with the Aggro Shaman versus this. It seems like a lot of the similar cards that are being played, but very versatile. So I really like it. I'm gonna pick it up again, keep playing it.
Yeah, I think this one is slowly becoming like the default like Shaman deck, because even over the aggro one, this one I feel is a little more consistent overall than the aggro version of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely more popular. There's some faster variants of this coming out. For instance, some that include Flame Reach Faceless, some with Double Doomhammer, Alakir. So it's sort of the Totem Shaman archetype is sticking. And now they're deciding, should it be more of a late game Totem Shaman or a Totem Shaman with a bit more early game and maybe not as many finishers.
Absolutely. And I think that's going to be more meta dependent, right? However the meta is coming along, they might take it to be a little slower or a little faster. But yeah, I think that we're starting to see one of the first archetypes that definitely is going to stick around for a while.
Great. This actually goes directly into our email section. So let's take our email from last week. All right. So technically this wasn't an email, but it was sent in during our show with Sir Slips, who's in our chat again this week. So shout out to Sir Slips. Say that's 5 times fast.
No.
Okay. Don't do what I say. So he actually wrote, hey guys, I've been working on trying out to build a Reno Shaman list since I think Halaziel is a super underrated card mostly. So far I've tried the Reno Cthulhu list that I've linked you here and was wondering what you folks might suggest for future changes. So you can definitely check out on our show notes. I know him and Cinder and I was wanting to play it more than I got around to playing it. I think I played it a couple games on regular, like casual mode. I didn't want to dump my rank because I was a little sketchy on it. But what did you think about this, Cinder? I saw you playing, and actually you had pretty good games against others.
Yeah, my first review of the deck. When you're playing Reno, you by default want to have most or all one of in your deck. And when you're playing Cthulhu, you need those Cthulhu cultists to get Cthulhu up to, 10-10 is the target that you're trying to hit because you want to start to trigger some of those effects like Twin Emperor, Veclor. So when you mix those two things together, when you take one of and the cultists, there's really not enough cultists to make one of seven times because 7 is kind of the magic number for getting that consistent +10/+10 by turn 7. So unless you're drawing a ton of cards, which is why the Cthulhu Warlock can get away with it. So I actually did away with the Cthulhu and just put some heavy top end like Flame Wreath Faceless and Sea Giants and stuff that benefit from board saturation that Shaman can do. And I used Halaziel and all the board clears that he had previously included. And with that little bit of change to allow me to put 2 ofs in the deck, like two times Mana Tide Totem and things like that, it actually started performing quite well. It just had this saturation of threats that most decks can't deal with. Like, you deal with the thing from below, that actually takes quite a bit of resources. All right, well, the Fire Elementals are next. And that takes actually quite a bit of resources, and they're a tempo swing card, so they're really good. And then here come the Flame Wreath Faceless for 7/7, which in the late game is really powerful because you can play it at 4 mana and then play a whole bunch of other stuff and maybe even unlock your crystals with the Eternal Sentinel. And then here come the Sea Giants right behind that. So, every game I played, opponents were having a hard time keeping up with the consistency of the threats. And I threw in, just for a bit of flair, 1 copy of Wind Fury, because if even one of those big minions stayed alive, bam, bam, 14, 16 damage to the face. So he had a fantastic idea. I don't think the Reno Cthulhu was the way to go. So we just kind of stripped away that part of it and stuck with the control part with the control frame that he built, and actually had a decent amount of success.
Yeah, I agree. The idea is really cool. Halaziel has a lot of potential, I think. I think it's really, really a good card. Maybe just we haven't figured out what to do with it yet. And I've seen Reno Cthulhu lists, but usually it's in a class that has some class Cthulhu cultists. That's really the only way to sort of make that work. But even then, you still want the multiples of them because they're such high-value cards. So I really do like the idea of a Halaziel mid-range Shaman. Maybe not a totem-geared deck, but something that is just more, threats on threats on threats. I think that could be really cool.
It could be. It basically acts as like a second Reno. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is Reno already.
Yeah.
Like if he hit the board, if you could front load him ahead of an AoE, which isn't hard because all of the AoE in Shaman is 3 mana, so that's an 8 mana play. Halazil at 5, and then the AoE for 3. And if you're playing against even 3 or 4 minions, you usually heal 10, 12 damage, which is that's a big chunk of damage to heal in the mid game.
Yeah, and then you want 2 of your damage spells with him anyway to get the heals. So if you're going to make full use of Halazil, you're probably going to want some duplicates.
Yeah, Stormcrack was what we went with, which performed quite well.
Good card.
My only experience with Halazil was when the Cthulhu Druid was being super popular. I made this Malagos Halazil style combo shaman where you just like drew a bunch of cards. I had like the double ancestral knowledge, double gnomish engineers. I had like blood mage Thalnos, loot hoarders in there, so you could draw really fast with it to get to the win condition. And it was actually quite good against that type of druid because you could even just outright play Malagos on him on curve and turn 9, and then you're like, oh, what do I do with this 412 over here? And then next turn, it happened like probably a couple of times, just like play Malagos on curve, and then next turn just play Halazil and like double Lava Burst to heal for like 20 damage and just deal 12 damage. So it worked really good for that, like that combo style. But definitely too slow for like the aggro shaman, aggro paladin kind of thing that sometimes we were seeing. But Halazil definitely felt super strong the times that you were able to like play him and heal at the same time.
Yeah, it was super fun to actually watch Cinder play against a Control Warrior versus this deck.
That was fun.
Actually, this is probably a good deck against Control Warrior, just because of the token and the totems and stuff.
Yeah, like I had a fairly big board, and I was just spreading really wide. And Kenny's like, "Man, you're playing in a brawl," and I'm like, "Dude, I got 4 hero power totems. I hope he does brawl."
Yeah, Shaman's generally pretty good against Control Warrior. Actually, the Warrior has a hard time keeping up.
Yeah.
And then you don't want to brawl a board full of totems. It represents like no damage, but then Bloodlust represents a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to brawl.
And the utility of it too.
So yeah, I hope that helps you. That was a really cool email to add into our show this week. Anything else you want to add before we go out? We have several announcements or some things we're going to talk about here. Or do you want to talk about them?
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Just go ahead and talk about it.
All right. So first of all, I do want to thank at the top of our outro here. We are interested in, or what we're going to do. We're going to perform like a mini episode. It's going to be with Cinder, Cora, and a guest. I don't know if do you want to leave it up as a surprise or?
Well, we can. It has to do with the condition of the Twitch community, as it were. We felt pretty strongly about this, and that we can use our voice to address it front and center, and maybe do some good. So we brought on somebody who's directly involved with trying to make positive change. So we're going to have a conversation hopefully tomorrow, and then we'll record it as a little mini episode, a little bonus episode for everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
we just wanted to give a little voice to some of the people that were directly involved with this sort of thing, because it was unfortunate that such a cool event like DreamHack, especially the first one in the US, has to be tainted with some of this bad mojo stuff and things that people shouldn't be doing or saying. So just a little civilized discussion and things that we can do as a community, things that maybe the outlets that we're doing this thing, Twitch and other broadcasting channels, maybe can the measures that they can take to prevent this happening in the future. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and we did want to give it a separate kind of platform rather than our normal show, because we do have all our normal listeners that expect a certain type of show from us. So if you're not in,
not
go
just
ahead.
that, but just the fact that this is. We stick to tournament news and talking about decks and stuff, and this is a really important issue that I think needs to be addressed, and we all wanted to give it its own platform and its own separate voice from the show, so it didn't get lost in the rest of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So whether we could have it separate, so where you really could dive deep into it, or if you're not interested in that at all, you can just skip and not even listen to it at all. It's up to you. But we
Although
wanted to kind
we
of have
highly
it separate.
recommend you take a listen to it. As a community, we should all be involved and we should be in agreement to all these things. So just so it doesn't happen again.
Exactly. So definitely worth a hear, and actually the people that are directly involved. So very interesting what we have planned. So I would listen to it and not turn the Twitch chat off if I could use a
not
metaphor.
This time.
Yes. So that's something that's pretty exciting coming up. I'm going to be going out on vacation, so we're going to plan on hopefully having someone come in for a guest then. We're still working out some details. More to come. Woohoo. And not last but not least, let's go ahead and announce we are officially fully supported by our community.
Woo!
Yeah. We have 2 new top donors today, actually, at our first $25 level. We have Leon C. and Adalid C. I think that's how you pronounce his or her name. So, yeah, they both signed on after listening to just one episode, or actually Leon did. So thank you so much, Leon. He did say something really nice when he joined Discord. So he's in our chat right now, too.
Yeah, that's just incredible, man. I'm
going to Discord right now. Nice things.
So yeah, super awesome that they're sponsoring the show. You guys can expect us moving soon to Hollywood to start recording in a studio over there. Big upgrades to all of our equipment.
Yeah, the next thing we want to, now that it's self-funded, because keeping up the website and the podcasting services, it costs a little bit of money. So being self-sufficient is really important. The next thing is equipment upgrades to make us all sound even better and, avoid some of the crashes and mic problems that we have from time to time. So, yeah, help us out. It'll be great.
Yeah, and we'll get on to some other things. I'm pretty sure we'll get into the next one. It's not too far off from what this one is. So that'll be the next step. And then we'll go into even more. We hopefully have another announcement pretty soon. So that'll help us get there, too. Lots of fun stuff coming. All right. So, again, you can go check out our Patreon website is at CoinConcede. So, www.patreon.com/CoinConcede. I think that pretty much does it for the announcements and other things. Corey, you want to go ahead and give our thanks in show as well?
Yeah. You guys can catch our blog posts at coinconcede.com along with our show notes. Special thanks to Stefan L. for letting us use his cover. You guys can check him out on his channel, which is always linked in our show notes. Make sure you go check those out. You can follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede. And, of course, like and share our Facebook page at facebook.com/CoinConcede.
Great. And let's go ahead and start with Andres, as usual. Where can people find you?
Sure thing. Look for me on Twitter at iPlayGames. You can also find me streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/iPlayGames with a Z. And you can find my own Overwatch podcast, which I'm super excited about, especially after they released today the new Hanzo versus Genji cinematic. That was so cool. It gave me the chills. We're going to be talking a little bit about the lore of Overwatch and some of the background story for some of you that are interested in that sort of thing this week. So if you're into that, check the Omnic Lab at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv.com/Omnic Lab. Check that out.
Great. And Cinder, where can people find you after the show?
I live on Twitter at Cinder Ascendant. I'm quieter during the week, but once the tournaments start queuing up on the weekends, I start tweeting commentaries and tweeting at talent and stuff like that. So join the conversation. Help me out. And follow me on Twitch if you want to hang out with my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Cinder Ascendant. And we can hang out and listen to some slamming tunes and play Hearthstone.
Yeah, I've seen you actually tweet at some of the players even in the tournaments, hoping they're actually listening to the podcast now and they get to hear themselves on there.
We just got a follow. I got a follow from a top ladder player and tournament player. So I assume he's listening. So thank you very much.
Yay.
Yay. Yeah, hopefully they can join us. And yeah, we love the conversation. That's awesome. Cora, what are you up to? Where can people find you? What's new?
You guys can always follow me on Twitter at songbird_HS. And I'm on Twitch at twitch.tv/SageCora. I actually did stream 3 times last week. 3 whole times.
Count them.
2 of those times, I actually got an amazing host from Hotform. So I ended up having a full
Ooh.
stream. I held about 400 the first stream, and then the second time I held about 600 viewers for like 5 hours.
Nice.
That's
It's
fantastic.
really amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had an incredible week of streaming. So special
Yeah,
thanks to
host from
Hotform
Hotform. That's nice.
Yeah, special thanks to Hotform for hosting me for all those incredible viewers. Canadian chatters were incredibly polite and very, very. So yeah, I had a great time.
They
Yeah,
did
if you
lose
know
their
the-
sorry.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Oh
Nerf
my gosh,
to
the
Canadians
spam
there.
the spam was hilarious. I believe one of them was, and now we politely riot by saying sorry. You just keep spamming. You spam polite riots. It was super cool. I had a ball. So yeah, come find me twitch.tv.
So yeah, if you couldn't hear, it's twitch.tv/SageCora and at songbird_HS.
Cutting out again.
A little bit. See, these are what we can do to
I'm
upgrade
buying
our.
a Blue Yeti today. I'm buying a Blue Yeti this week.
Okay,
There you
Doing it. Going for it.
some of the money is going towards Cora. See, it's making use right now. Help us out.
This is
All
what we
right.
tried to avoid, guys. Please help us.
May not cut out every 30 seconds.
Alrighty, and for me, you can follow me on Twitter at KCCO_gamer, and on Twitch, I actually threw up my video for my 500 wins on Warlock at KCCO_gamer, and you know what? If you want to add me, hit me up. Go to our Discord and add me through there. I'm not going to throw it out there because people start adding me and I don't know who you are. This way I could get to talk to you first. All right, so that pretty much does it. Let's get out of here. We're done.
Yep.
Stick a fork in
Good.
me. All right. So the last thing I want to say is keep calm and chive on, and until then, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Concede.
Going to concede.